Hey everyone, welcome to another Gene News podcast. Today we've got a very interesting guest. We've got Bianca Ranson, who is both an activist and a campaigner, and she's based here on Waiheke Island. And she has been active in the fight for climate justice and for ocean protection. Bianca has founded her own pressure group called the More o Te Moana, and she also is an elected member of the local board here on Waiheke and works for Forest and Bird as their lead campaigner for the protection of the Hauraki Gulf. Hey, welcome to the show, Bianca.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Hey, I thought it would be really good to start with the very beginnings, and the very beginnings are really whakapapa. So could you tell the audience here a little bit more about your background and your whakapapa and where you come from?
Sure. Thank you for having me on your show. It's really nice to be here, and kia ora to everybody else out there. I am based here on Waiheke Island and have grown up here and with my amazing mum, who is a pretty well-known local as a local hairdresser. And so on my mum's side, I am Pākehā and have had the privilege of calling this beautiful island my home for a long time. And then on my dad's side, I am Ngāti Kahu ki Whangaroa and Ngāpuhi. And so we are from a place in the far, far north called Whangaroa, and a beautiful place. And so that's where, my whakapapa connection is to, and where some of my siblings and my dad currently live up those ways.
Awesome. Now, a little bird told me something about that side of your family connects all the way back to he whakaputanga, in English it's the Declaration of Independence of the United Northern Tribes back in 1835. Is that true? What's the story there?
That's right. There's a whakapapa connection there, definitely to our ancestors and to Whangaroa through the signing of he whakaputanga, and also through our kind of hapu and our whānau as kaitiaki of that, and just a real acknowledgement of that as being the foundational document for Aotearoa, and also for it being the tuakana or the document that really laid the foundation for Te Tiriti o Waitangi coming about. And so he whakaputanga that was signed in 1835 was a declaration of our sovereignty as sovereign peoples. And so that was affirmed, and it was recognised a year later by the General Assembly, and then obviously 5 years later we had Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which reaffirmed our sovereignty and also paved the way for the settlers who were here at the time to form the government. So
yeah, thank you. That's great.
So it's an interesting kind of whakapapa connection, but also just in terms of those two incredibly important documents and seeing the connection between them, and how the realization of what they have promised everyone that calls Aotearoa home is something really exciting and a really amazing opportunity for our country moving forward to have a conversation about truly honouring and standing in integrity and acknowledging our history together and the pathway forward as well.
That's great. So in your early life and right back in the history of New Zealand, there was a period of time in the 1970s where there was a kind of a renaissance, I suppose, a bit of a more active period, and we had the establishment of the Waitangi Tribunal, and we ended up having conversations, I think, about the treaty principles, and this kind of continued on into the 80s, into the 90s, and the period of time was a period of kind of waking up for a lot of people, just to try and realize that things had been kind of carrying on in a way where we hadn't really looked at the treaty very, very much. Now, in terms of influence on yourself, there are a number of things that kind of helped make you become more active politically. Can you talk a little bit about that in that context of that period?
Yeah, I think that's a really good kind of looking back to the 70s, and particularly here in 2025 when we've just witnessed, the biggest hikoi that we've ever seen with the hikoi mo te tiriti in response to the Treaty Principles Bill. And we've pretty much had a hikoi like that every 20 years. So there was the 1975 Land March that was led by Dame Whenakupa from Te Rerenga Wairua down to Parliament, and ultimately really resulting in the establishment of the Waitangi Tribunal and the Treaty Principles. And we had the 2004 foreshore and seabed hikoi, so that was around 20 years later. And then of course now we're here in 2025, and I think it's been, those are such kind of those political moments do have a really incredible ability to conscientize and raise awareness amongst the masses. So definitely for tangata whenua, but also for tangata tiriti, and even for those who have a differing view on some of these issues as well. So they really have been incredibly important, and particularly the one this year, which also led on to the record number of submissions being 300,000, and shows the, I guess, how heightened the political moment is that we're in at the moment. And so for me growing up, my mum was always really political, and I think that the way that I experienced it from her was like the importance of particularly like working class and people having access to things that they need and things that we deserve and that we can collectively come together to make possible if we share and if we have leadership that cares about the well-being of our communities and our society. And then I also, I guess, had quite a political moment as well, because during the 90s was a time of the fiscal envelope, and so at that time the government had like millions of dollars to push out this propaganda about the fiscal envelope, which was to be a full and final deal signed by Māori and the Crown for $1 billion, and that would kind of effectively be it. And so at that time there was a group of young activists at the time who thought that it would be really important to be able to counter that propaganda and that narrative, and didn't necessarily have the same means as the government in terms of millions of dollars to push that out. And so there was one of them that had a chainsaw and another one that had $5, and they're like, let's put the $5 into buying gas and put it in the chainsaw. And yeah, and then that, I guess that moment was kind of became quite a significant part of New Zealand history, but also in terms of countering the fiscal envelope and raising awareness about te tiriti and many other issues that were important to Māori, and that was through the cutting of the tree on One Tree Hill. And so I was in my kind of later years of high school when that happened, and so it was just really incredible to have all of this energy, not only throughout our parents' generation but also within the young people at the school that I was at, which I was very lucky to go to Ngā Puna Waioria, which is the Reo Rumaki at Western Springs College, and then also how that really was a catalyst for a lot of organising amongst rangatahi Māori as well during that time. So I guess my connection to that action that happened on One Tree Hill is a family one. And so that was our dad that went up there and cut the tree. And I guess the power of that moment was that, there was a pine tree, and it was, so it's not a native tree, it's an introduced tree. And through him doing that political action, actually gained not only national attention but international attention, and really provided an opportunity to counter what was being put out there around the fiscal envelope, which just kind of fast forward quite a bit, eventually ended up getting thrown out. But it was also, as a young person, quite, I guess, eye-opening to see how so many people were outraged about this pine tree being attacked without an understanding that actually hundreds of thousands of acres of our whenua has been stolen from us. And there's a whole nother, part of our shared history in Aotearoa that we need to be really honest about. And we also need to find a way that we can move forward that recognises our history and also what was agreed to as well. So I guess that was quite a significant moment in my life, and also for many of my friends, and then the subsequent kind of occupations and momentum that was gained and gathered for the Māori protest movement and the land rights movement during that time.
Thank you. The whole area is very interesting because it's ongoing, and we've still got a long way to go to understand everything, and but it's important that we keep learning and understanding all those kind of things that you're talking about. In your talk just earlier, you talked about some of your education. Could you tell us a little bit more about some aspects of your education which were more like full immersion into areas that a lot of Pākehā never get to learn about?
Yeah, so I guess my very early education was over here on Waiheke, so it was at the Waiheke Area School. And then for my high school years, I was at Ngā Puna Waiorea, which is the Reo Rūmaki unit at Western Springs College. And so in my first years of high school, it was actually a bilingual unit, and we transitioned into a Reo Rūmaki, which meant that we went into a full immersion experience where it was kind of frowned upon to speak English with some of our kaiako, which was a little bit challenging, seeing as I hadn't grown up with te reo at home and had limited ability to learn te reo Māori. And so, but at the same time, I knew that it was a really important part of, who I am, and recognizing that for, like, my grandfather was a very different experience. He was encouraged not to speak Māori, and Māori being his first language. And I remember going and sitting by him when I was doing one of my assignments and sharing some of what I was doing in te reo, and it was just incredible to have that moment with him and understand, like, his experience of being a young person up in Whangaroa, and how how school was it definitely was the complete opposite of embracing and celebrating who we are as tangata whenua. So that was an amazing opportunity to be within the Rūmaki, and Western Springs College, also the Rūmaki sits within like a mainstream school. It's a little bit different, like there's no uniform, and there's a big focus on the arts and culture and so on. But it meant that we had this incredible, really strong, supportive whānau unit, and then we could go out into the wider school to experience, different things as well. If we wanted to do school production, or if we wanted to do kind of other classes, we could go out there and participate in that as well. So I guess that was a huge part of yeah, growing up. And then after I left school, I went up to the far north to Ngāti Wai Wānanga Rāurau Foundation, where I did like a taiao course in the outdoors for 45 weeks, and that was incredible. And so we did a lot of that out of the marae, and we were working a lot in the mara, and everything was by the maramataka. And yeah, so that was just incredible. Lots of diving and hiking and all kinds of things. Everything.
So yeah, well, that's very interesting. What exactly did you learn for the English speaking audience when you were doing that? What were the kind of the key things that you really learned?
I guess during that time, and growing up on Waiheke, it was very much like that as well. It's just an understanding of our whakapapa connection to te taiao, to our natural world. That, and in terms of the way that we interact with it and the way that we look after it and sustain it, and it sustains us. And so it was also about the importance of our collective community and whānau as well. So we would be working with our tamariki, like with our little kids, doing different kinds of programs or holiday programs, right through to going and checking in on our kaumātua, seeing if their lawns needed to be mowed, or dropping off kaimoana because we were of the age where we were able to go out and gather, and also working in the gardens. And so I guess the main thing is really that I learnt during that time was the skills of being able to take care of one another and take care of our environment, and the importance of that for a strong, healthy and caring whānau and wider community.
Fabulous. Now, a little bird told me that you went on and participated in some theatre projects at some stage after this with a gentleman named Jim Moriarty. Can you tell us a bit about that and what that actually involved?
Yeah, so yep, that was a little bit of something different that I did in my early 20s. Went down to Wellington and worked with Jim Moriarty and his incredible theatre company that was putting together productions with young people. And I think like this example, along with a lot of the programs that are really, like, there's incredible programs that have been out there working with rangatahi or young people in the outdoors. And with Jim, the medium was theatre, and so we would go out and meet different young people that may have not been attending school, or perhaps had just come out of prison, or might have had some kind of challenges that they were facing, and talked about the program to see if they were interested. And eventually all of them would come together, and there would be a process of putting together a theatre production, which was really about acknowledging some of the things that had happened in their early life, and the storytelling, incredible storytelling of that, and then their aspirations and goals for the future. And so it's kind of like this journey from te pō to te ao marama, and it was just, everything was really about the actual stories of these young people. And but it wasn't just about the show that came out of it. It was about the ability to be able to share in a way that was supported and safe, and it was really strong in terms of Māoritanga and kapahaka and tikanga. And it was also a way for these young people to be able to come together and live together for the duration of creating the show, and then also tour together. So some really incredible relationships and friendships and trust and healing was done during the theatre production. So it was a real honour to participate in that and to see the work of Jim and many people that were on that team. And I think that it's a really incredible example of what should be available to our young people, which is kind of looking at things in terms of a holistic way, and a way that is immersed in te ao Māori, and also has that element of wanting to create genuine healing and well-being, and aroha for these young people, to be able to support them to go out and live their best lives, or make different decisions to ones that they may have previously been making, or just be able to know that there are people out there, there is support out there for them, and there are other opportunities. And I think currently, with what we're experiencing with the boot camps with this government at the moment, they could take some really good lessons from incredible programs that have been run across Aotearoa for many, many years, decades in fact, that have incredibly good outcomes and aren't based on the kind of framework of a boot camp.
Exactly. I'm just going to talk now a little bit about your work at Forest and Bird and the Haraka Golf, and really, for everybody listening in, if they haven't really understood or learned or had the opportunity to know much about what's going on with the Haraka Golf, this is a good opportunity, I think. Bianca, if you'd like to just give us a quick summary of the history and the story there, what's going on with the Haraka Golf right now, and what do we need to do about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot going on and not a lot going on at the same time, and the reason that I say that is because it's well known, and the science is really clear, that the Hauraki Gulf is on the brink. There is just so much pressure on the Gulf, whether it's pollution, sedimentation, governance, and overfishing, and that overfishing is both recreational and commercial. It's about 50-50 in the Gulf, and so that's really leading to a lot of our species becoming functionally extinct, or some of them are only at about 10% of their original population. And then, of course, we also have the added pressure of Callirpa, which is an exotic seaweed that is spreading quite rapidly throughout the Hauraki Gulf and up to the north along the coast there a bit further as well. And so there is a lot of pressure on the Gulf, and there's a lot that needs to be done in order for us to be able to revitalise the life-sustaining capacity and the ecosystems of the Gulf and the biodiversity within it. So it was once known as a world-renowned biodiversity hotspot, just because the amount of species that we have there, and incredible seabirds and so on. So the more recent efforts, I think the most important thing to say first of all is that the strongest and best leadership that we have seen for the protection of the Gulf has been through that leadership and the actions of hapu, and that has been through the placing of rahui. And there are several rahui throughout the Hauraki Gulf at the moment. 25 years ago, the Gulf was recognised as a national taonga and a marine park through legislation. So in the year 2000, Parliament set that into law, that it became a marine park. However, over those 25 years, we haven't seen any high protection increase at all. So 0.3%, less than 1% of the Hauraki Gulf is currently protected. So there's a few things going on at the moment. One of them is that there is the Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill, and this bill was 10 years in the making and is a really important step toward protection, and it will increase high protection from 0.3% to 6%, and seafloor protection to 12%. And at the moment it's currently stalled or being delayed again by the government, and so it got interrupted at second reading, and we urgently need to see that legislation be set into law so that the 19 protection zones throughout the Gulf can be set into place. So it was unanimously supported by the Environment Select Committee with cross-party support for it to go through. And there was really robust and quite comprehensive public consultation. I think over was around 10,000 people made submissions on the bill. And after all of that, and once the National Act New Zealand First Coalition came in, they actually slipped in a last minute amendment after public consultation, which is quite significant, and it would allow commercial fishing in high protection areas that will be established through this legislation. And it's just quite ludicrous to allow commercial fishing in what's supposed to be high protection, because it effectively changes it to a fisheries management zone. So there's been a lot of pushback on that, but a lot of motivation to get this one across the line. The other issue is bottom trawling, so we want to see an end to bottom trawling. Some people may have seen the David Attenborough film Oceans recently, which has footage of never seen before footage of bottom trawling. That was shot in Turkey, which is in quite similar waters to and depth to the Hauraki Gulf. So that's extremely destructive fishing practice that just wrecks the seafloor and has already led to quite significant damage in the Gulf. And so we want to see that gone. So yeah, there's a lot to do. And then of course there's Kalepa, which we need extensive funding for, to be able to try and eliminate that in areas like Aotea, Great Barrier Island, it's on Waiheke, it's at Kawa, etc.
So I'll just take a couple of things there that you said. The role of hapu and the rahui. One day I was out walking about 5 or 6 in the morning, and I came down to the beach, and there was a big gathering there, and I think you were there. And I think we had Chloe Swarbrick there. We had a few people there, like from all areas. And I was like, what's going on? And there was a big sign that had just been placed, and people had been given some speeches. But this is the rahui around the island, and it was for a number of years. And this was because of the functional extinction of a whole bunch of different sea life that I think a lot of people just weren't even aware, was going on. So do you remember that day going down there? And
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, there was just hundreds and hundreds of people down at the beach. And I think from the first hui at Piritahi through to the placing of the rahui was maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. And there was a lot of discussion and opportunity for community to come down to the marae and, talk about how they felt about it and kind of have their say on it. And there was just enormous support for the rahui, because a lot of people do know how bad things are, and a lot of people are incredibly frustrated that nothing is being done about it. So this was a real and really amazing demonstration of leadership from mana whenua, from Ngāti Pāoa, with the placing of the rahui, and a real celebration of the community and support from the community on that morning. I mean, it must have been about 4:30 or 5 a.m. I've never seen so many people down at Oneroa Beach.
That's great.
The Tākiri back at the marae afterwards, and the whānau put down a hangi, and it was like, it was just a beautiful celebration of this expression of aroha for the moana. And so there's other rahui throughout the Gulf. There's Ngāti Manuhiri, and then there's Ngāti Hei. And so, really encouraged to see that leadership and that expression of rangatiratanga is really beautiful as well.
And these actions, they precede the government action often, don't they? They kind of end up being like a catalyst for change.
Yeah. So with that one, the rahui was set, and then the kind of directive was given to the government to set it into, to approve the 186A, Section 186A application, which is through the Fisheries Act, which is for a temporary closure. And at the time, the Minister of Oceans and Fisheries was David Parker, and so he did approve that. And what that does is it really helps with the enforcement of it. and also really clear communication through the information that's available down at many of our boat ramps and around our beaches, informing people of what a rahui is, where it is, and what they're prohibited from taking. And there's quite a big consequence if you take something too. I think it's about, I mean, you'd be lucky to find these things. That's, you mentioned it before, it's like these are functionally extinct species. And obviously we don't want to be getting to the point where we're trying to, protect something that's functionally extinct. It's incredibly important, but I think the fine can be up to $100,000 if people, take any of those out of the moana. And actually, some of the species have been documented through some of our citizen scientists and different projects that are happening around the island, that they are starting to come back, which is really promising. But it will take many, many years for them to be, kind of established enough to for there to be no protection in place for them.
Yeah, we've got to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of keeping going, there was a big debate just before Christmas, actually, about this Hauraki Marine Protection Bill, and that's when it got highlighted to me, anyway, that Shane Jones had been in there trying to pull this amendment that you're talking about, which had to do with commercial fishing in high protection zones in the Gulf, and undermining the whole concept of high protection. And the rationale there that I came to understand was that there was some group of people Shane Jones was arguing needed to be fed in South Auckland. Had you heard about this kind of reasoning for the amount of fishing that was going to be proposed, commercial fishing in the high protection zones?
Yeah, so with the amendment, it's not quite clear exactly where that amendment has come from, whether it has been Shane Jones, but for many reasons, I guess it is definitely a go-to in terms of the commercial fishing, protecting commercial fishing. But yeah, that was incredibly disappointing, to see that the fishing industry and other commentators were saying that this commercial fishing within high protection areas was needed because poor people in South Auckland needed fish. I mean, it's one of the most outrageous, ludicrous things that I have ever heard, to try and justify commercial fishing in a high protection area to feed the poor. So yeah, really disgraceful behavior and narrative to be putting out there. And the reality is that if we have ecosystem-based fisheries management, if we actually value and protect our ecosystems, then we can have sustainable fisheries in a way that is not causing huge destruction to benthic environments and to our ecosystems, and provide kai for everybody. And so yeah, I was really disappointed about that. And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago I was at the Environmental Defence Society conference, which was really good. There's always a very wide range of views there, and Shane Jones did speak on the first day, which was around oceans, and made a couple of really disappointing comments there, which was that everything is sitting on his desk to make a decision about what's happening with the bottom trawling within the Hauraki Gulf. The position of Forest and Bird and multiple NGOs and the majority of people who live within and around the Hauraki Gulf is that we want it out. We want bottom trawling, just all methods of bottom impact fishing to be gone from the Gulf. And so yeah, he has everything that he needs to make a decision. We've been through public consultation, the whole lot, and he said that there's going to be no decision on that this term. And then when he was asked some questions in the House, from really good questions from Te Anau Tuiono from the Green Party about trawling in the Gulf, he just referred to the Hauraki Gulf as being a mud-stained bottom, and it's just kind of like this, just dismissing that the Hauraki Gulf is not this, world-renowned, incredible ecosystem that deserves to be protected and has been, the benthic environment is just being annihilated through these fishing practices, and that the benthic environment within the Gulf is really diverse, and there's incredible, it's an incredible and really important habitat for many of the species that hold together the fabric of life of our ecosystems, and also that is the breeding ground for Lake Tāmure for snapper, which is incredibly important to both commercial and recreational, and just saying things that are really out of touch with fact and with science, and with the he actually doesn't have the social license to be saying these things. It is really not working in his favor, because the majority want this kind of method banned. So it's incredibly disappointing to see this kind of leadership and things being said about a place that we really dearly love and want to look after.
When it comes to bottom trawling, you've been involved in a little bit of activism, a bit of work there. There's some filming going on, and there's some stuff on social media. We'll just play Bianca now on social media.
Te Kapa Moana needs your help. These taonga species need your help, and it's urgent. It's 25 years since Parliament declared the Hauraki Gulf as a national taonga, yet 0.3% of its waters are fully protected. And to make it worse, the government has just announced the Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill has been delayed again. Every delay allows destruction to continue. Bottom trawlers keep scraping the seafloor. Marine life continues to suffer. The invasive marine seaweed caulerpa continues to spread, smothering all life in its path. The time is now. Sign our open letter to Prime Minister Luxon. The link is in our bio. No more delays, no more destruction, no more distractions. It's time to pass the Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill. It's time to protect our precious taonga species and our vital ecosystems for generations to come, before it's too late.
So that was Bianca representing Forest and Bird and bottom trawling. And there's actually some more coverage and more information coming up in a 3-part series. Bianca, can you just tell us a bit more about that and what it's actually showing and where people can see it?
Yeah, it's a series called Heal the Hauraki, and it's was a real honour to be a part of it, an exciting project that has been led out by Cassie, Roma and Mandy Kupinga, who many people may know. She was the one that kind of led out the Seasick documentary series that came out a couple of years ago. So Heal the Hauraki is a 3-part series, and each episode focuses on a wahine Māori who is doing work within the Hauraki Gulf to protect it. And so there's an episode on Nicola McDonald, who is the co-chair of the Hauraki Gulf Forum and leads out a lot of the work from Ngāti Manuhiri, and is amazing. So I'm really excited to see what was filmed with Nicola. And then there's also Charmaine Bailey as well from Ngāti Whātua, who is doing incredible work over all different areas throughout the Gulf, and particularly on Motutapu with the restoration project out there. And then there'll be an episode on me which is focusing on a lot of the work that I'm doing with Forest and Bird, and what we've been doing to raise awareness about bottom trawling and provide communities with an opportunity to come and participate in some actions. We did a massive flotilla down at Orake, and one of the highlights was actually Mandy got it on film. There was this lovely woman out in her kayak, and she's 75 years old. She tells the camera, I'm 75 years old and I've never protested before. And she's like out on a kayak, just like full force, like, I love the ocean. This is such a terrible fishing practice. And was just so amped and excited to be out there with us. And that's what we want. We want to be able to offer people an opportunity to express in all different kinds of ways how much they care about the ocean, how much they care about the Gulf, and to allow their voices to be heard, not just through petitions or submissions, but also through public actions, flotillas, protests, however that may be. So all of those things are really important, and they're all different kinds of tactics that can be used in different moments to gain the most, benefit from whatever is happening politically. So Heal the Hauraki. It's we're going to be launching my episode at the Waiheke Cinema. I'm really excited about that. And I guess just one other thing related to that as well is we're really pushing an open letter to Christopher Luxon and Tama Pōtaka at the moment to get on with passing this Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill as well. So anything you need to know about the Gulf, go to Forest and Bird. Love the Gulf, Arohatia Tikapa Moana webpage, and get involved and link in with all other community groups, support Hapu, support everyone who's making efforts to protect this taonga.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Excellent. I'm 100% there. I've got a personal story there of seeing bird life and fish life become almost completely absent here over my lifetime. So
Yeah.
I'd really love to see everybody support this cause and do something for the natural world and stand up for it.
Yeah.
The other big area that I wanted to quickly just talk to you about that you're involved in is climate justice, and the recent COP experiences. COP, if you don't know what COP is Conference of the Parties to the Paris Accord and to the Kyoto Protocols, and it's held every year. Now, Bianca, you've been along to one of these maybe maybe a few of them, I'm not sure, but in the last couple of years. Can you tell us a bit more about COP and what goes on there and climate justice in general?
Yeah, so currently I am the chair of the Aotearoa Climate Action Network, and the Aotearoa Climate Action Network has got around 60 organisations that are members, but we are a part of a global network, and so each year representatives from the different nodes within different countries do travel to COP and as well as other things. And so the first time that I went to COP was for COP 28 in Dubai, and that was I guess just a quite an overwhelming experience for the first time that you go, and there's there's a lot going on. And so for my first experience there, it was incredible to link up with particularly other Indigenous people from around the world and those from the Global South. There's quite a big award that's won at COP, which is called Fossil of the Day. And I don't really want to win it, but I did nominate our own country for Fossil of the Day, and we won. So that got quite big national and international media coverage. And the reason for that was because this current government had just announced that they were reversing the oil and gas exploration ban. And so at COP and on the world stage, all over the world, Aotearoa New Zealand was celebrated as being, leaders in the phasing out of fossil fuels, which is extremely important to addressing the climate crisis. And so when the Labour government made that announcement and banned oil and gas exploration, that was well known through many, many countries across the world. So it came as quite a shock to those in Dubai that the government this current government was talking about reversing that. And so that happened in the earlier days of COP, and a few days before Simon Watts, the Minister of Climate Change, landed into Dubai. So it made those meetings reasonably interesting, and talking to him through the media before he arrived there But that's the importance of being a part of such an incredible network like the Climate Action Network, which represents over 1,600 civil society groups worldwide. And so last year COP was in Azerbaijan. I was quite looking forward to going to that one, but it actually clashed with the Hikwi opposing the Treaty Principles Bill. So it was important for me to stay and do the logistics and planning. And participate in the Hikwi, and we had good representation from Aotearoa in Azerbaijan, and then in March earlier this year, February March this year, I was in Brazil, where 170 of us from around the world gathered to put together our strategy for COP30, which is again in Brazil later this year, and also our 5-year strategy as well. And so we were the first engagement for the president of this COP this year. And so that was a really good opportunity to, first of all, know that it's not the CE of an oil company that is the president this year, as it was in the petrostates of Dubai and Azerbaijan. And had huge criticism from, and rightly so, from people all over the world. And just be able to kind of have that meeting and establish that relationship quite early on with the president is that's pretty amazing, really.
We're seeing New Zealand drag its chain now under Luxon, in my opinion, when it comes to climate action. We're seeing more delays. We're seeing kind of the faith in technology that doesn't really exist. We're seeing them set up advisory councils, to protect agriculture. We're seeing all sorts of moves, I think, that are more based upon short-term gain and short-term profit than listening to science. And I think there's kind of a bit of an area of concern, but also ignorance in the public. What do you see as being the main issues that are in the way at the moment of us making progress?
Oh, definitely, governance, and it's been really alarming to see that there has been some quite blatant climate denial and science. Like, it's almost like there's science deniers when it's so clear. We have the IPCC reports that come out that have over 1,500 of the world's leading climate scientists producing these reports. The science is just so clear, and what's most frustrating is that the solutions are already out there. It's not like we're trying to find solutions to the climate crisis. We just need to have the leadership to be able to and to be bold enough to say, hey, like, this is these, and particularly here in Aotearoa, the one thing that I think always kind of gets a free pass is our biggest polluter, which is agriculture. And so it's just alarming to see that we're going back on so many fronts. There's just standing up and saying, we're like, drill baby drill, and if there's like taonga species, like endangered species in the way, then oh well, they've got to go. And just this incredibly harmful kōrero that's happening around the prioritizing this kind of industry that the sun is setting on in one way or another, whether it's just simply that our planet can't sustain what we are currently doing, but also the harm that it kind of causes to our communities, and particularly to our young people, where the climate crisis is very much at the forefront of people's minds, and then they're seeing people coming out and talking in this way it's just a kind of like mentality and thinking that is not compatible with the reality that we're living in, or with our responsibility of kind of the leadership that we need to be demonstrating to our younger generations as well. So yeah.
It's infuriating and mind-boggling, and I do feel like we've been sold a bunch of rubbish by Christopher Luxon about how it's just a different way of reaching the same targets that they're committed to. I think that's a lot of spin, and I don't have any faith in the current government myself to get on with things. When it comes to your dad, actually, you mentioned him much earlier there. He's taken some action against some polluters, and when it comes to damaging the environment, and that's gone up to the Supreme Court. Now, that's got the attention of people on the right wing that are very concerned that pollution should carry on. And your dad's doing a great job when it comes to climate. Can you tell us anything about what's going on there?
Yeah, I can explain a little bit about that. He actually just came in and shared about that at Forest and Bird, and we'll be doing a talk with the Aotearoa Climate Action Network shortly about his court case as well. And so he's suing the 7 biggest polluters in Aotearoa, and they tried to... So they basically tried to push back and say, well, if you're going to sue us, then, you know, how can you just say that it's just us 7 polluters when, you know, it's all of the polluters in the world that you'd need to be taking to court, and that's where it kind of got held up. But just recently, I think in the last couple of months, the judge didn't agree with that, and the date has been set down for April 2028, I believe. So, yeah, it is I think the power of it as well is that it's not, you know, we have, usually what people do is they try to hold the government to account, or they're, you know, lobbying, like what a lot of us do in our work for certain positions and legislation and so on. But this actually skips the government and just goes straight to the courts. And you did just mention before that it has raised the concerns of some of those on the right or the far right. And so there is a private member's bill in the biscuit tin at the moment from Joseph Mooney. And it actually explicitly mentions that it's in relation to Mike Smith's court case, and it's to stop people from, you know, being able to take polluters to court and to actually bring it back to government. So at the moment, it's really important that people understand that private member's bill is out there, and the implications that it would have for holding polluters to account. And the reality is that, you know, and one of the main concerns is around like false solutions, some of the things that Christopher Luxon and this current government are talking about with carbon capture technology. And the reality is that we need to be, you know, stopping emissions at the source. And I think that with this, like the way that Dab was explaining it is that there's very few, you know, silver bullets within the climate movement, and this court case is actually could be one of those. And so it's really significant, and it's there's people from all over the world following it, and you know, have interested in it and wanting to document it. So yeah, it's definitely one to keep keep an eye on.
That's why I mentioned it. It's really important. Now, you're a very, very busy woman. You are an elected member of the local board. You're also running your own local business here, where you help people from overseas understand a whole lot of aspects of New Zealand.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about the work involved in either of those areas?
Yeah, so the Waiheke Local Board, this is my first term as an elected member, and I think that really came from the Protect Putiki campaign that we ran down at Kennedy Point in Putiki Bay, opposing the marina that was built down there. And so not long after that, people within the community had asked me if I would run for the local board, and I had to think about it and had some encouragement, and so decided to give it a shot, and was successful. And that's been an honour to be on the board and to, just to make sure that we are staying aligned with the things that people on Waiheke care about, and that different community, environmental initiatives and community projects are being supported, and the right decisions are being made for transport and a whole range of things. So that's been initially was a little bit of a challenge, just to understand the processes of council, and how it all works and how to be effective. So that's been an incredible learning opportunity, and I think that one of the parts of being on the Waiheke Local Board that I've really appreciated is that I also sit, because I'm an elected member, I get to be on the Hauraki Golf Forum. And the Hauraki Golf Forum is half elected members and half tangata whenua. And we have quite a strong kind of influence and advocacy for the golf, and which is obviously important for us as people sitting in the middle of it out here on Waiheke. So that's been amazing journey, and I'm really excited to see who the other candidates are that will put themselves forward this year for local elections, and really encourage a lot of our young people to give it a go. And particularly because we know that there's going to be a concerted effort from those on the right and from the far right to put candidates forward. I think it's really important that people who reflect the permanent population of and community of Waiheke putting themselves out there, or brave enough, or if anyone wants a hand, let me know. I'm more than happy to talk about local elections or campaigning. So
Hey, if you need some more help with that, let me know.
Yeah, cool.
So we're just coming to the end now, but when it comes to other campaign work and activism that you're involved in, there's quite a few things coming up. Is there anything you'd like to talk about that's coming up that you'd like to draw some attention to right now?
So I guess, every week I'm supporting the Palestinian community and the wider, Auckland communities and Waiheke community that are turning up to show their support for the people of Gaza and the people of Palestine. And so I encourage people to, in whichever way that you can. There's a sanctions bill that Chloe Swarbrick is currently has and needs more support from like cross-party support. So there's an opportunity for people to talk to their local MPs and in supporting the bill to sanction Israel. It's really devastating to see what is happening, what is the genocide that is happening in Gaza. And we also have a delegation from Aotearoa, New Zealand, that are going to the Global March to Gaza. And so they're leaving here next week. There's about 25 that are flying into Cairo, and they'll actually be walking to the Rafah crossing, where they aim to break the siege and allow in humanitarian aid. So there's people from many countries around the world that are all flying in for that specific kaupapa. So that's another great one to be able to just keep an eye on and to support. The other thing to please keep an eye out for is anything to do with the Hauraki Golf. So we will be ramping up our efforts around bottom trawling again. There is the open letter to currently sign around the Hauraki Golf Marine Protection Bill to Luxon and to Tama Pōtaka. It's really important that we keep the pressure on for this bill. We need to get it across the line. It's a complete disgrace that 25 years after this legislation was set in place for and declare this a marine park, that 0.3% of it is protected. A marine park is supposed to be like a national park. So if you can see the difference of how we look at the land and how we look at the ocean, it desperately needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. So keep talking about the Hauraki Golf, keep expressing how much you love the golf, or your stories about it, or connections with it, or celebrating different species within the golf. And I think that collectively, we definitely have the social license on our side. We have the passion and the motivation to create the change. And we need to make sure that we have the leadership in place to be able to reflect the wishes of communities. And we're currently not seeing that. So we need to keep the pressure on. And we also need to make sure that when the next election comes around, that there is, I think this needs to be an election issue. I think that the Hauraki Golf, we need commitment from Labour, we need commitment from the Greens, Te Pāti Māori, across the board to say, we will set in place, this legislation. We will ban bottom trawling. Let's have these parties commit to it so that we're not going into a whole nother term with uncertainty about the future of our beautiful blue backyard.
Fantastic. And I'm sure just about everybody here listening to this podcast here is 100% on board with everything you're saying. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on G News today. Bianca, it's been an extremely good hour listening to you, and very heartening and educational for all of us. So thank you very much for your time, and all power to you and the things that you're fighting for.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'll see you next time.
Okay,
bye.
Welcome to G News, the good news.